All right, the next piece that we're going to create for our male caddy project is the back piece. And so there are two back pieces, one at the top and one at the bottom. If you scroll down, you can see the overall dimensions for the back piece. So we'll go ahead and create those in Fusion. And so again, the first thing I'm going to do, I have my male caddy assembly file selected. I'm going to go over here and select create a new component. It's going to be a standard type of part, and I'm going to name it back. And then I'll click OK. Notice that it creates a new component within that assembly. So I'm going to use my view cube and hold that down to scroll around to the back of my model. I'm going to go ahead and click to create a sketch, and I'm going to start the sketch on the back of the model here. If we look at our drawing, if we look at the assembly drawing, we can see that this is the back piece by these dotted lines or hidden lines, and it sits on top of the base component. And so within our Fusion 360 model, we can go ahead and hit the rectangle tool. I'm going to click here on the top of that base part, and again, I'm going to drag a rectangle over. And so I can make that kind of whatever size and the width because we'll put it in a dimension for it. And so when I select my dimension tool and click the dimension, the overall width of that part is 8 inches. And again, the height of the part is 3.5 inches. So once I've done that, I can go ahead and finish that sketch for that rectangular part, and I can click to extrude that part. So when I click to extrude, notice that it gives me a direction. I don't want to extrude it this way. I want to extrude it back into our model. All right. And so notice how that puts a negative sign in front of it. And so in this case, it's going to be -3/4 because that shows us the direction that the extrusion should go. And so that negative symbol just means a direction. So I'll go ahead and click to place the back part in there, my model. I can then activate the full assembly to see what that looks like. And we have our back piece for our male caddy in. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create another mirror plane, or a plane to mirror this part up to for the next part of it. So to create that mirror plane so we can mirror this back part, I'm going to go ahead and select construct again, and I'm going to use again a mid plane to do that. And in this case, I'm going to select the bottom of our side piece, and then I'll scroll to the other side and I'll select the top of our side piece, and I'll go ahead and click OK, and notice that it's put that plane in for us. I can then, if I want to, just for visual, it doesn't matter if you do this or not, but I can make it bigger or smaller just to kind of see where that plane's at. If I select the front view, you can see it's in the exact middle of that part. All right, from here, I'm going to go ahead and come over here to create and select mirror. In this case, again, we want to make sure we have components selected. We're going to mirror component. I'll select the back. I'll click the mirror plane selection, and I'll select the plane we just created. And what you can notice is that that back piece does not go all the way to the top. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And I can see what the problem is. I selected, instead of the top surface of the base, I selected the bottom surface of this, and so that mirror plane is not in the correct spot. And so to fix that, I'm going to show you again how 3D modeling in this CAD system works well. Down here in my timeline, I'm going to go ahead and right click, and I can say edit feature. And so I'm right clicking on the plane that we created, and I'll say edit feature. And notice that in my edit feature, it has two mid planes to create, or 2 planes to create the mid plane from. I'm going to go ahead and click the X by that, and I'm going to select 2 new planes. And so I'm going to select the top of my base now and the top of my side part, and we'll put the new plane in. And when I go ahead and click OK, Notice how it automatically updates and puts the new back part in the correct spot. Now I'm going to go ahead and select that plane, and so under that plane is in my assembly file. It's under construction. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck the eyeball to turn off the visibility of the plane. The next part of the model that we're going to create are these front pieces. And so there's 3 front pieces that are evenly spaced on our object, on our mail caddy. And if I scroll down, I can see the overall dimensions of those front pieces. All right, so that's what we're going to create now. So I'll go back to Fusion. Again, with the top level selected for our assembly, I'm going to go ahead and create a new component. It's going to be a standard component, and I'm going to name it front. I'll go ahead and click OK. From there, I'm going to click to create a sketch on this plane of the side piece. That will give me a good reference to start my construction of those front pieces. And so from the outside corner, I'm going to click and drag a box. And notice how it won't select the edge over here. So I'm going to show you a way that you can make that edge come up. So without clicking in the rectangle tool, I'm going to go ahead and click Escape to end the command. There's a really helpful tool over here under Create called Project. And so right here, if I select this Project tool, I can come over here and select this plane. And now what that's done is it's projected the geometry from the side out to the plane that I'm sketching on. And so now when I click my rectangle tool, I can select this corner and it will find the other point for me. So it knows that it needs to be 9.5 inches. And if you look at your plan, that's exactly what it needs to be. Now all we have to do is define the height of it. So I'll get my dimension tool, select the height, and the height should be 1 3/4 inch. And I'll go ahead and hit enter. I can then finish my sketch, and I'm going to click the home view so we can see our extrusion here. I'll select extrude, and this time I'm going to want to make sure I extrude not only this, but our other 2 parts of it. So we have the entire rectangle selected, and I'm going to again extrude it out 3/4 inch, and I'll go ahead and click OK. So we'll use the rectangular pattern to copy this front part down instead of using the mirror tool this time. And so I'll select rectangular pattern. Under the type, I want component selected. Under directions, I'm going to click that and I'm going to tell it the direction I want. And to do that, I'm just going to click this edge. And so that's telling it that I want that edge. We're just going to create 2 copies now. And if I go ahead and drag down, I can see that I'm going in the negative direction. And to put one of those in the middle, it's going to be -2.5 inches. And so once I have that done, I'll go ahead and select OK. And what we've done is rectangular patterned a component. All right. And so the reason we did that with these 2 is because these 2 are going to have the same hole structure. The bottom one is going to have a few different holes in it. And so again, if we look at our mail caddy, the holes for these top 2 just have the screws. The bottom front is going to have some different holes for the hooks. All right. And so to create the bottom one of these now, instead of using that rectangular pattern tool, I'm going to come over here to front 1 and I'm going to say right click on it in my browser and I'm going to say I want to copy it. I'm going to come up to the mail caddy and I'm going to paste new within the mail caddy assembly, a new version of that. All right. And so with that, I will then drag down, and this one's going to be -5 inches, and that puts it directly at the bottom. When I have that done, I'll go ahead and select OK. We'll see how the 2 different methods of that show when we create the holes in the next part of our CAD example here.